Today we have a very special tutorial. I think this is the best free VPS setup you can get in 2022. I've been experimenting with lots of ways to set this up. This is Oracle's free tier. You can have up to 4 CPUs and 24 gigabytes of RAM, so they're extremely generous on the free tier here. Just go to oracle.com/free, go through the sign up process. But we're going to set up this with Hestia control panel, so HestiaCP. We've got this set up here so you can run all your websites and mailboxes through a nice graphic interface here. You can set up WordPress, you can set up a mailbox. We're going to do that in this tutorial step by step. We've got this WordPress website, we've got a mailbox here. Everything's secured with SSL, and we're going to do this step by step. A few more reasons why I love this setup. We've got a one-click app installer to install popular web applications. We're going to use WordPress today, but there's lots of other good ones here. We've got the ability to add as many domains or websites as we like. There's no restriction on that. Same with mail. You can add as many mailboxes as you want, and very easy to add an SMTP relay through the panel. Very easy to do. We can create backups. We can access our files through the file manager, and we can access our databases through PHPMyAdmin. All of this is included. Lots of good modules included by default as well. So industry standard security like DDoS protection, you've got a firewall. We've also got NGINX Caching as well for very good web server performance, which is important for running WordPress as well. All of this is free open source software. The only money I spent to do this was just the $2 on that domain. I'm running free hosting through Oracle, like I said earlier, and this is a completely free web panel. And the web panel has automatic updates as well. So if you're getting started running a server and you want to try something for free, this is probably the best possible way of doing it. Now, I honestly think this is the best overall tutorial video I've ever made on the channel. If you've tried previous Oracle setups, I definitely think you're going to prefer this one. This is basically everything I wish I knew when I started out. So if you've never tried running your own server, this is a perfect chance to run a tremendous setup, all for free using the Oracle free tier. So definitely share this with your friends, hit the like, hit subscribe, drop a comment, let the video run as long as possible, watch as much of it as you can. All that stuff really helps the channel. I really want to get this video out there because I think it's my best work, and I hope you agree. But anyway, let's head over to our Oracle dashboard and let's build this thing. So from our Oracle Cloud dashboard, you can see I'm using a free tier account here. I'm going to create a VM instance. Let's give it a name. I'm going to call it Hestia for this demonstration. And we're going to change our image and shape here. So change our image first. We want to go with Ubuntu 2004 here. So that is the first one there, canonical Ubuntu 2004. Select that image. The default shape is our AMD Micro, and this is always free eligible, but the more powerful option is the Ampere, and this is always free eligible as well. If we select this one here, we can see that we can adjust the amount of RAM and CPU, and the free tier allows us to go up to 4 CPUs and 24 gigabytes of RAM. So you can scale that as you like. And you can also create multiple servers as well. So maybe I'll make one with 2 CPUs and 12 gigabytes of RAM, and then make another one with the same specs as well. So as long as you stay under 4 and 24, you're still going to be in the always free eligible tier. So in this case, let's go with 2 and 12. I'm going to select that, but you're free to scale that up if you like. Next thing we'll need is an SSH key. So you can actually paste a key in there that you've generated earlier, or you can just generate one from this dashboard here. You can save the private key by clicking there, and it will download onto your downloads folder. Same with the public key. We can grab a copy of that. These are going to be in our downloads folder for later. You can see in my downloads, I've got that private key is .key and the public key is .key.pub. So we'll use those a bit later. And we're all good to go. Hopefully we can create this server. It's going to tick away. It's out of capacity. If you do get stuck with this out of capacity error, we can actually just try a smaller server. So we can go back here, change the shape, and let's go with something a little smaller. So let's go with 1 and maybe 6. Let's try that, and then click create again. And hopefully we can get here we go. So we can run 1 CPU and 6 today, but sometimes I can manage to get 4 and 24. Sometimes I can get 2 and 12 gigabytes of RAM. But today I just got 1 CPU and 6 gigabytes of RAM. 6 gigabytes of RAM is going to be plenty for running Hestia, so no worries with that. Let's go ahead and wait for this one is provisioning. And after a minute, we'll get a green icon here that shows that it's running. Now, while it's provisioning, we might actually point this IP address with our DNS that we're going to be using for the domain that we're going to point. So let's go over to our domain manager and actually set that up. In this case, I'll be using bot.site for this demonstration. So I'll just need to add some DNS records. In Namecheap, you just go to your domain list under advanced DNS and you can add records. Other DNS management, similarly, you just need to be able to add DNS records. So just go ahead and do that. I'm going to add an A record. I'm going to point the root over to the IP address of my server here. So that is my server here. We click the tick and there'll be a few more we want to add. I want to add a CNAME for our www as well. So that is www. We're going to point that to ideaspot.site and that is all good. And then there's a couple of other subdomains I want to add as well. I want to add a mail domain. We're going to point that to our IP address. There we go. Same thing with, I'm going to make a Hestia control panel subdomain. So I'm going to access my control panel through HCP at the IP address as well. And I think we need webmail as well. So I'm going to put webmail on here, webmail, and put our IP address on there. So we'll need these for later. So I may as well set those up while the server is provisioning. So these are all good to go. Okay, so we're all up and running here. We can use this IP address to connect with Putty. I'm going to use Putty for my SSH client here in Windows. And to do that, we're going to, first we're going to convert that key into the Putty format. So we run PuttyGen. It comes with a few different apps. Putty, PuttyGen, two of the ones I use a lot. So we're going to load up that key. Just change that to all files here, and we can see our key is there. And then we can save that private key in Putty format. I'm going to call it Hestia. That looks all good. And I can close out of that. And then we can run Putty there. We are going to put in our IP address there. It's going to be Ubuntu at the IP address. I'm going to save it as Hestia for this demo. So save it there. And we're going to go to SSH under auth, and we're going to browse for that key that we just set up there. So that's the Hestia private key that we just created for our server. So that looks all good. I'm going to save it again, just so it's all saved with that config. Then we can hit open. So now we're all connected. I might just make this font a little bit bigger so you can read it a bit more easily. Great, now that looks a little better. So there's just 3 commands really to get Hestia installed. First, we're going to change to super user. So that is just sudo su and dash. And now we're operating as root. Now we grab our install script from Hestia there. So we've downloaded our install script. And then the next part is run the installer. So in this case, you'll need to change a few things in this command here. So you put in an email address for the admin email, a nice strong password for your admin password, and the domain that you're going to install to, or in this case, I'm going to install it to hcp.ideaspot.site. So you can have your own custom panel domain there on your subdomain that you choose. So I'm going to use this one for this demonstration, but you can set that up as you like. That is where you're going to access Hestia's control panel from later. So let's go ahead and run this command. I will share this and explain it again on my blog as well, so you can just copy paste it and change the relevant parts to suit your install. So this is going to go ahead and start installing. So this looks like it's working okay. It's installing our stack that we need to run all our software and our panel. So just be patient while this all runs, because it does take a little while. We've got a little message saying it's going to take 10 to 15 minutes. So I'm just going to skip ahead and wait for this to be finished. So that looks all good. We've got our control panel installed here. If we scroll up, it's worth copying this information out so we can log into our server. That's the important part there. We've got the admin URL, admin and password that we set up there. Let's just make sure we've tucked that away. It's not that important because we did set that manually and we know what our IP address is. So if you missed that, don't worry about it, but I'll copy that out. And then we just need to restart the system. So I'm just going to start reboot in here, and that is going to reboot our server. So we'll just have to wait for that server to come back up. We won't need to log back into this panel again. So I can just go ahead and close out of here. So while that's rebooting, let's go to our instance in Oracle Cloud here. You can get to that through instances there, or just through the instances in our main menu there. We want to go to our virtual cloud network. What we're going to do is open the ports that we need to run our panel and our website and our mail server, all that good stuff. So click our subnet there and our default security list. And we're going to add some ingress rules. We should have port 22 by default. Let's add those extra ports that we need for today. Okay, source CIDR is 0.0.0.0/0, TCP there, and our destination ports, we're going to need 8083 for our Hestia, 80 and 443 for our web server, and for our email, we'll need these ones here. So 143.993, 110, 995, 25, 465, and 587. I'll put all that on my website in the blog, so make sure you check the description so you can just copy and paste those in with commas separating them. We can add a description there. I'll just call it Hestia, and we can add those on. And that should add all our ports on here. Now that's all done, we can log into our panel. So we use our IP address on port 8083 there, put that in our browser, and that will take us through to our panel. We'll get an SSL warning that we can skip through here, but you'll also notice that because we went to our DNS manager and we pointed HCP ideaspot.site to the IP, it's already issued a certificate for us. So we can actually go straight to our HCP ideaspot.site or whatever you've chosen for your panel, pop that in there and go on port 8083, and we can actually get to our login panel here, and you'll see that the SSL has already been installed. So this is a really nice, smooth setup process. It's just a matter of logging in with the username and password that we set up during the install. So let's go in here with admin, and we go the password, and we can log in. All right, I'm going to save that password in there as admin. All good. So now we're all logged in. The first thing that's good to do, rather than doing everything under the admin, we'll add a regular user to the panel. So I'm going to add a user here, and we'll just fill this in. So yeah, it's basically just name, an email, strong password. You don't need to worry about the rest of that. Click save. So there's our success message. We've got a successful user created. We can actually log in now as Alex. Lovely. We can see I'm logged in there as Alex. Now, there are lots of different things you can do on Hestia Control Panel, but the obvious things are start up a website and start up some mailboxes. So let's start by making a website. We can add a web domain here, and I want to use IdeaSpot site for this, and we want to enable mail for this domain as well. So let's go ahead and do that. So I already set mail and webmail up in my DNS earlier, if you remember mail and webmail. So make sure you've done that already. What else do we have here? So IdeaSpot site has been created successfully, so that looks all good. If we go back to web here, we can see our IdeaSpot site there. We can actually install the SSL from here. If we click the pencil, we can edit the domain. So here we can add SSL by enabling it there. We do want to enable HTTPS redirection. We want to use the Let's Encrypt certificate, and we want to enable HSTS as well. So that looks all good. We can go ahead and click save now. This does take a little minute for this to add that certificate, so just be patient while this ticks away. All right, so that took about 30 or 40 seconds, but we've got our green tick here. We've got our web domain set up. If we go back to web here, we should have a little green marker there with SSL, so that looks all good. While we're on the subject of SSL, I should also add that I did manage to get this HCP subdomain encrypted automatically when I installed it, but if you had any trouble getting that working automatically, say, for example, if you didn't point your domain over, or if there was some issue with your DNS records not updating in time before installed, you can actually go back and you can install that SSL manually, but you have to do that from Putty. You just run this command here, vyad let's encrypt host. So you run that as sudo from the command line in Putty, sudo vyad let's encrypt host, and that will go ahead and encrypt the host. In this case, my host is HCP, but whatever you've chosen as your host, you can do that manually if the automatic install didn't give you the SSL. I just thought I'd mention that. Also, there is a statistics thing here that is not turned on. Now, this is optional. It's basically like an alternative to Google Analytics that gives you a few informations about how many visitors you've had to the website, those kind of things. Completely optional. I might set that up later in the tutorial, but I think we've got our website set up. Let's go in here and let's look at it again, because we can actually add applications to this website now. So there's a quick install app. Now, this is a really cool part of Hestia, because you've got all your favorite web apps basically here. You've got WordPress, Drupal, all your favorite stuff. So you can install things automatically in one click pretty much here. So we can set up WordPress, for example, here, fill in this. So just fill this out. We've got the website name, a username and an email address, a nice strong password, and leave everything else as default is fine. We can go ahead and install that. That should install WordPress onto ideaspot.site. So just be patient while that installs. Only took a few seconds and WordPress app was successful. Great. Now, as we can see over on ideaspot.site, we've got our SSL installed. We've got WordPress running just here with the default theme all set up, ready to go. We can get to our panel over at WP admin, and we can log in with those credentials that we just made earlier. So let's go ahead. So here we are in our WordPress backend. You can go ahead, appearance and themes, install a theme, start building a site, install a migration plugin or import an existing website. Lots of tutorials already on the channel covering that. So I'm not going to cover that in this one, but hit subscribe and go through my channel and check all those out for yourself. But let's go back and let's install a mail as well. So let's click mail. Now we can see we've already got that mail domain set up because I chose that option when I set up the web. So we can see it's all looking good, except it doesn't have SSL on here yet. So let's go ahead, click the pencil icon there. We can actually add SSL to this domain. It's just a matter of clicking enable SSL here. And we want to use Let's Encrypt. You can use a custom certificate as well. And there is SMTP relay. Now, given that we are using the Oracle free tier, email deliverability on the free tier is not great because we don't have reverse DNS. It is better if we use an SMTP relay. Now, if you don't have an SMTP relay, you can get a free one from Mailjet, which is pretty good, or Sendinblue, which is pretty good as well. They both have free tiers. You can do 300 emails a day on Sendinblue for free. Mailjet, similar. I think it's 200. So I think I'll use Sendinblue today. So if you haven't signed up, just sign up, go through the normal sign up process, and let's get to our dashboard. Great. So in our dashboard, we are under SMTP and API here, and we're under the SMTP tab. We want to create a new SMTP key, and let's name it Hestia for this demo and generate it. Now we want to save this. This is the password that we're going to use for our SMTP relay. So copy that, and we're going to keep that safe for later. So I'll pop that in my notepad. Let's just paste it in there, and I'll just save that. We're going to use that in a minute. And our username is going to be your account email, your port number is going to be that one, and the SMTP server is this one. So we're going to copy these details and put them into our Hestia control panel. So I'll just paste that password straight in there and just copy those details across. Great. So basically I've copied that information from our SMTP details in Sendinblue. So Mailjet's the same thing. You just copy the same credentials into our panel here, save that on, and we should be good to go. Again, just wait 30 or 40 seconds because when you're issuing an SSL certificate, it does take a little minute for Let's Encrypt to issue that new certificate. So you get a green icon there. Mine took about 30 or 40 seconds, so just be patient for that one. Now, the next step is going to be to authenticate our domain over on Sendinblue so we can send trusted emails through Sendinblue. So basically we go over to senders and IPs here. Great, so we're under senders and IPs, we're under our domains tab there. We're going to add a new domain here. So ideaspot.site is what we're going to add here. And I would like to use this domain to digitally sign my emails. Click save there. So this is my favorite part, copying and pasting records into my DNS. So let's go, I'm in Namecheap, but wherever your domain is hosted, first thing we're going to do is add a new record. We want a text record here. Now, what is this? We need to add mail._domain key. So that is our host. And the value is this stuff in here. We can click the copy button there. We paste it into the value. That looks all good. And we just continue this process. So this one is on the root of ideaspot's site. So we just copy that. And this one is a text record as well. And that is at, because it's on the root. And we click that there. This is the SPF record. That's a text record. Keep going. We can copy that one. This is, again, it's on the root and it's a text record. So text, that's the value. Host is at. Awesome. What else we got? Underscore DMarc. Lovely. Add that record. That is a text. Underscore DMarc. The value is this stuff. Perfect. So I think that's all. 4. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, just note that we've got a DMarc here and an SPF. You might already have a DMarc. You could replace the DMarc with this one. And the SPF is going to be for Sendinblue. If you have other mail services, you can combine the other IPs or domains that you want to include on your SPF record. But otherwise, just use the Sendinblue one if you just want to use Sendinblue. So this one is all I'm going to use for this demo. Now, you need to maybe wait a minute or so, depending on where this is hosted, for these to come into effect. But once you've been waiting for a minute, then we can actually start verifying these records. So let's click that one. And with any luck, you get that green tick. So let's do the next one. There we go. Next one. Good. And the last one. Good. So you need to get all 4 green ticks. And when you've got that, you click I'm done. And then we should get a authenticated tick for our domain. So that's all good. So now that we've done all that stuff, we can actually send every email out through our Sendinblue SMTP relay. So that will really improve our deliverability rather than trying to send it through our Oracle free tier IP address, which is going to be a little dicey. Using a professional SMTP relay is going to be better. So mailjet.com or Sendinblue, link in the description for that as well. So check those out. So the SMTP relay is all set up. There's one more record we need to add. So let's go to mail and we need to go to the DNS records here. And we can see we need to add an MX record. That's the only thing we need to add, and that's priority 10. And we've already set up mail, IdeaSpot site, and webmail, IdeaSpot site. We're going to use those. So those are already in there, but this one, MX record. So sometimes your DNS manager will let you choose an MX record from the list of things. On Namecheap, you need to go to mail settings down there, and you'll have MX, custom MX is what you use on Namecheap. And so we can put in our MX record here. Host is going to be @ mail server is going to be mail.ideaspot site. Priority will be 10. There we go. And we save that on. And that takes a second. And that is all successful. So we should be all good now to set up a mailbox. So let's head back to mail. Now we can add a mail account here. So we can add a mail account here. I'm going to call my account Alex. Just put a nice strong password in there. So it's going to be Alex at IdeaSpot site. Go ahead and click save there. And we should have a success message there. So you can run this through any mail client using those IMAP and SMTP settings that we've got there. And you can also access it through the webmail domain that we set up as well here. So webmail ideaspot.site, we've got the mail client here set up. So we can log in with our email and password, and we can log into our webmail. Looks all good. I can save that password. So here we are. We can compose and receive mail in here. So under compose, I've just set up a test message here. We can go ahead and send that through. And sure enough, in my Gmail, I've got my email that I've received under the primary inbox, which is nice as well. So that looks all good. If we go to our show original there, we can actually check the headers and just make sure you've got SPF parsing, DKIM, and DMARC. So that looks all good. We probably won't have any problems with spam or any issues like that because this looks like it's authenticated perfectly. And you'll notice it's using our SMTP relay automatically as well there. So that looks all good. A nice benefit of having our SMTP relay set up here in the back end of our server is that in the case of WordPress, for example, we don't need to go ahead and install an SMT plugin to use SMTP. All the emails coming out of our server are going to go through that relay. So that saves us one plugin, which is a nice little benefit. As I mentioned earlier, I'll show you how the statistics thing works in Hestia as well. So under web, on my domain, let's go to our little pencil there, and you can actually enable the statistics, so AW stats, and you can actually have a password authorization on the statistics page, so we could just put that on there as well. Let's have Alex and our password to access that, and we can just save that in. That should only take a second, hopefully. That took more like 10 seconds, but that worked okay. Let's go back and we can actually have a look. We got statistics, and we've got a green tick there. Now under web, I can look at the stats. We've got that little stats icon there. And we can go, we need to log in as our username and password that we use there. Just let me get that right. There we go. Sweet. So this is just basic stats on your visitors. So I've only had 3 visits because that's just me. But I think you get the idea there. Other features that we can see, we've got a file manager, which is pretty nice. We've got our home folder there. If we go to our web, and you can actually see the site we installed in the file manager. Under public HTML, we'll find all our WordPress stuff that we installed. You can actually upload and download files manually there as well, which is nice. A nice little feature of here is you can actually upload zip files in here. So I just tested a little text document uploaded there, and you can actually access a unzip option there if it's a zip file. So you can migrate a website pretty easily. Just copy all the files in there and then put the website database on using a migration plugin, or just use the, I think there's a database management in here as well. So we can actually exit to our control panel. Let's see our database manager here. So we've got actually databases that's there, and we can see we've got our MySQL database for our WordPress site there. If we click the pencil, we can see our database settings, and then we can go back, and you can even get phpMyAdmin there as well. How good's that? There we go. We do have to log into our database. So in this case, we've got a WordPress database. We can actually get that credentials out of the file manager here. So in our website public HTML folder, you can look at the WordPress config there. We can actually view it. So if we automatically set up our username and password during the install, we can actually pull those credentials out. So I'm Alex, and that's my username. Our password's that one. Should be able to get us into our screen here. That looks good. There we are. So we've got our WordPress database. So you can go in and mess with your WordPress database if you like. All right, so yeah, files, databases, that's pretty much all you need to run, administer websites and mail servers. So I think that's the basics pretty much covered. If we log out here, let's log back in as admin and see what other tricks we can do in our back end here. So admin, I'm going to log back in as our admin. And when we log in as admin, we'll get options to the server config there. So we can have a look at what we've got on our back end. So here we can see all the services that are running, and we've got some nice security features that come default. We've got fail to ban, brute force protection there. We've got IP tables firewall there. You can see the firewall details under there. And we got spam assassin there for our email spam protection. So, I mean, this is all a very nice setup straight out of the box. And we got our NGINX caching there already enabled as well. So this looks all cool. Before I wrap this up, let's cover a few of the common questions that I get about the Oracle Cloud Free tier. So everything I did in this tutorial was using Oracle Cloud Free tier on the Ampere processor. Now, I've been using this for nearly a year. It's been completely free and I've never had a bill. If we scroll down, we can see we've got always free cloud services. Plus we get an additional 30 days to trial other stuff with $300 of credit, but I've only actually ever used this stuff. You can see the details of the stuff that we get always free down here. So we get 4 Ampere processors that we can use. As we saw today, I could only actually access one of them. So sometimes you have to be patient for capacity to free up with those Ampere processors, because this is very popular. You also get those 2 AMD micros, which are not as powerful, but you can run things that don't run on Ampere, like CyberPanel is the obvious one that I tested, and I did a demo on the VPN. I set up using an AMD as well, but you get 200 gigabytes of storage, and I think that's NVMe storage as well, which is really, really nice. You get 10 terabytes of outbound data transfer. I mean, most paid services might only give you 1 or 2 terabytes, so you get 10 terabytes for free, which is excellent. So this is really good. If you stick to all this stuff, it's always free and you can use it as long as you want. Now, some people do have issues when they sign up. Now, the sign-up process is a bit tricky. You've got to provide a phone number and a card as well to authenticate your identity. So make sure that you're using real details. Don't try to fake anything during the sign-up process. You've got to use a credit card or a debit card. Everything has been fine from when I've tried it, but I did have reports that some banks, their debit cards don't work and you can't get through. But just make sure all your names, addresses, and things that you use match what is on your card that you're using during the sign up. You will get an authentication charge as well, like around $1 or 70 cents or $1.03 or $1.12 or something, some random number. But that only stays on the card for 1 week. It automatically gets refunded, so don't worry about if you see that on your card. But just generally make sure all your names, addresses, phone numbers all match up with reality. It matches up with what is on the card and the phone. So all this should work just fine, provided you're 100% authentic with everything here. Don't try to fake this or abuse this in any way. This is a really nice free service, so I would hate to see them shut it down. At the end of the day, you don't have to be stressed about getting a bill. You've got this purple header here that says you're using a free tier account. So as long as you got that there, you should be fine. You'll never get a bill. If you ever want to upgrade, you do have to go through the upgrade process. So you have to be very intentional about if you want to change your free tier to a paid tier. So yeah, as long as you got this here, you got nothing to worry about. So that pretty much wraps it up. I have to say, I really love Hestia in this setup. I do like it a lot more than AA Panel. I thought this was a much smoother process. We get NGINX, we get mail server with our SMTP relay. That was really easy to set up, and everything's running beautifully. So I did definitely enjoy this setup. I really appreciate having this quick one-click installer here, especially for setting up WordPress sites. I might try some of these other ones, maybe Nextcloud I might try. Let me know what you'd like in the comments, but very simple to set things up using Hestia. And being able to add that SMTP relay just through the panel there, just plugging in that username and host and password details, I thought that was really smooth as well. So everything I did, very frictionless. I think this is a great free open source solution, especially when using this Ampere on your Oracle free tier. You are a little bit limited to which panels support the Ampere processors still at the moment. I think this will improve as we go further into 2022, 2023. We'll get more support from other options, but Hestia is one of the really best free open source solutions for using Ampere at the moment. So I definitely like this in this situation. All right, so if you want to check out a couple of other good Oracle free tier tutorials that I've done, I have done a VPN setup using OpenVPN, and I've done a remote desktop as well. So I'll put both of those up there. Like I said, you have up to 6 virtual machines that you can run. So you can run lots of other things besides Hestia. So maybe you want to try one of those tutorials. I'll put those here, but thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.